Hey neighbor, welcome back to ARTV. My name is John, and today I'm looking at 7 massively underrated songs by the iconic pop-punk band Blink-182. I made a version of this video all the way back in 2016, not one of my best. I think I've gotten better at what I do since then, but if you want to watch that or maybe just briefly catch up, the names of the ones that I featured in the first list are on screen now. When it comes to Blink-182, no one hates the band more than their fans. There always seems to be this division line that's invisible. Some people are over here in the olden days and they can't get past the 90s material, and then there's the people that only like the modern stuff, seemingly, like from Untitled era up or even 9 and Neighborhoods. Here I am, just awkwardly fence-sitting right in the middle saying Blink-182 were good back then and they're good now. It's just different. We got punk rock, we got pop punk, we got pop rock, whatever you want to call it. They're good at writing hooks, melodies, and of course, while I miss a certain member being in the band, it doesn't mean that I think Blink-182 should have disbanded because Tom DeLonge left and Matt Skiba came. With those ceremonial obligations out of the way, we can move on with the video. If you enjoy it, please drop a like on it, subscribe for the love of music, and share this out with another Blink fan.
Stop living in the shadow of a helicopter.
Welcome to My Strange Addiction Neighborhoods Edition. I can't stop talking about this album because I find it to be so great and kind of massively misunderstood, and even by me back in the day. But now I want to pass along a track, MH418 2011, that I find to be very cathartic in a lot of ways. This has a lot of beefy, pure rock adrenaline riffs on it, and I love that it feels a bit timeless in that way, but I also like that Mark Koppisch got a bit more thoughtful with the way that he wrote the lyrics. There's this kind of odd juxtaposition between the driving rock melodies of the tune and that undeniable chorus that absolutely pops off. Travis Barker kills it with the drumming on this track. Some of the fills are just insane, but I also like that Koppisch takes the time out to kind of reflect on his daily drive. He's talking about living in the shadow of a helicopter as it flies over his car, and then he takes the time out to compare it to those who are living in fear, possibly in a war-torn country or something like that, and it makes you think about things, because for the longest time I didn't know the meaning behind the song, and looking at it differently, it makes the song go that much harder. Disaster is the track that I picked, and I know I'm eventually going to run out of songs to call underrated from this EP, but my hands are tied. I'm contractually bound by an agreement that I made with myself. Tom sounds elated to be performing the words that he wrote and brings them to life with a zealous passion. Mark hides in the shadows to open up the song as he kind of gently croons the words disaster. It circles back to that later in the track, but in between they show off a ton of maturity and also a lot of patience in the songwriting. Travis Barker's performance is just next tier stuff. I love the fact that this song is about the fear of the unknown, and ironically, their next album, California, it kind of went backwards, but I'm also not totally flushing that one down the shitter. I'm just saying I like that Dogs Eating Dogs was a forward-thinking piece, and Disaster is leading that movement.
Cannot keep on, my personality is what I choose. I was brought up without a silver cup.
We started off this list with a couple of later in the career gems, but I want to take it all the way back to the early days. I'm talking the demo tapes, and I'm talking the Buddha version of Reebok commercial. Although it was released on Fly Swatter and 2 different versions of Buddha, you probably know it from the 98 Buddha, but maybe you know it from the 94. Who really cares what version of Reebok commercial you're listening to? Just hopefully you're listening to it in the first place, because this really takes it back to their perfectly imperfect days of punk rock. We tend to forget Blink-182's roots as a band sometimes, especially since we're that far removed from it, but this is pure skate punk rock music, and this song Reebok commercial sees Mark Koppisch on fire. Granted, he is not the only thing that appears. There's a long-winded instrumental to open the track, and then a firestorm of guitars that just goes out in a blaze of fury at the end. It's kind of unlike anything Blink ever did, and that's what I appreciate about so much off of Buddha and Dude Ranch in general, but this song absolutely lights my fire.
Here, hold on to me, I'm right here waiting.
Picture this, it's 2005, I've just been introduced to Blink-182 by my cousin and one of her friends, I'm falling in love with their sound, and then I hear Not Now, both on the radio and watching the music video on like MTV and Fuse, and I get so stoked, oh, it's new Blink-182, it's the first time that I'm gonna be a fan for something new that they put out, but it's their greatest hits album, and I'm like, okay, that's fine, at least there's a new song. Oh, by the way, John, they're also going on an indefinite hiatus, that is death to me. Thankfully, they went out at that time on an extremely high note. This was left over from the Untitled era, and this song is kind of about if you could say goodbye to somebody that has just passed away, like what would you say to them? You might argue this was a single, John, how could you put this on the underrated, but I would clap back and say this was actually kind of caught between eras. Granted, a lot of people probably could at least hum back some of the melodies from it, but I think it's underappreciated more than anything else. Travis holds this song together like glue. The acoustic guitars kind of come in and slow off the mood before things totally spiral out of control. There's so much balance, and Blink were so good at doing that, they mastered it during the Untitled era, and of course I'm always going to miss that period of Blink, and Not Now is just such a great testament, kind of a final goodbye if it was going to be a final one, and had they actually ended on that note and never returned, then I guess I would have been okay with it.
You create a world I don't wanna see, and your forests just stand up dead trees, lost in the night.
6-8 comes in hot at number 3. They named the song after the time signature they wrote it in, and of course it's Blink-182. They typically write in 4/4. This was very off-kilter, but I love the pure aggression. It's a very feisty song, and everything kind of breaks loose and flows free like a river. Matt Skiba from Alkaline Trio obviously joined Blink around 2015. Tom departed, there was a huge debacle, but I wish they would write more stuff like this. Obviously, without 3, Matt was pushing for this sound a lot of times, and he came into Blink and wanted more of his ideas heard. And trust me, when he does that, left alone, no heart to speak of, he works. Matt kills it with some of the screaming, the spoken word poetry, and even the bridge of this song, but let's not forget Mark Koppisch and Travis Barker, because both of these dudes deserve a ton of credit for pulling this one together. This is almost a mean-sounding song. I just want to back up a little bit, and I say that with the best of intentions. It's a compliment for sure. They all sound fully in control, fully invested as well. This track has a soul, it has a heartbeat, and I can feel it. This was off of California Deluxe, so if you never sat down and took the time to listen to that companion album, at least start with this track and then keep exploring. I feel very weird saying this, but I think I kind of had the backwards experience of a lot of Blink fans, because a lot of y'all old heads, you grew up on obviously Buddha, Cheshire Cat, and Dude Ranch, and I grew up in the greatest hits era with like Untitled and then Neighborhoods and all of that stuff, and went back and checked out the others. I wasn't super into Dude Ranch for a long time, but I am really starting to get into that album. For the sake of this list, at number 2, I went with Pathetic, the opening song from Dude Ranch. It is such a testament to how well Mark and Tom play off of each other, but also how different they sound as vocalists, but why that dynamic makes them stand out so much as a band. Both the humor and the self-loathing comes through in waves on this track, and I have to give a shout out to Scott Raynor. This was his final album with Blink. He did so well with this song. A lot of people would argue that all of his drum patterns sound exactly the same, but this one, I think it kind of stands out a bit, and it shows that he had the ability to progress. Obviously, I love Travis Barker, but give it up for Scott, too.
Should I go back, should I feel alone and tired.
Let's get lost in the space-time continuum of the Untitled era once again, and if we're giving it up for people just like we were with Scott Raynor, I have to give a tip of the cap to Jerry Finn. A legendary punk producer, he worked with Blink on some of their biggest albums like Enema, Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, and obviously this as well. And Asthenia, wow, there is so much good stuff to say about this track, from its kind of spoken word, spaced out intro, quite literally taking place in space. It does such a good job it kind of talking about love and the distance that people might feel in a relationship, and then it takes that and it puts the feelings in space, like you're looking out staring from the solar system, missing someone but not sure if you can actually fix this. As soon as that fizzly guitar comes in around 45 seconds and then Mark's bass, which just sounds very progressive in a lot of ways, I knew that I was going to be hooked on this track. A lot of y'all were mad that I did not mention this when I talked about the Untitled album in a dedicated album review, and I'm sorry for that. It's a fantastic one. I don't know how it slipped my mind. Maturity was starting to blossom out of Blink-182 at this time, and it makes my heart feel warm to go back and reminisce on this era. It's the time when I was actually becoming a fan of Blink in the first place. And this is a darker tune. It explores a lot of things. Asthenia itself as a title, as a word, it means the loss of vital signs, life slipping away. And that in and of itself, it can feel cumbersome, but the way that they tackle it, it actually works extremely well. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this video on 7 massively underrated Blink-182 songs. Let me know what you thought of the list in the comment section down below, drop a like on the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you want to check out more of my Blink content, then tap right here, or tap here for another underrated songs video. All of my socials can be found in the description down below, and I'll be back soon for more right here on ARTV.